The massive space station called Harmony's Rest floated in the empty darkness between star systems. It was built for one purpose: to host meetings between different alien races when they needed to talk instead of fight. Today it would host the most important meeting in recent galactic history. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim stood at the window of his small ship, watching the station grow larger as they approached. His dark suit was perfectly pressed and his face showed no emotion. Behind him, his small team prepared for what everyone in the galaxy expected to be humanity's surrender. "Ambassador," said Dr. Haewon Choi, looking up from her datapad. "The Cathani delegation arrived 3 hours ago. They brought 12 ships," she paused. "We have one." Hyunwoo nodded slowly. "Numbers don't always tell the whole story, Doctor." Captain Sojin Park's voice came through the ship's speakers from the bridge. "Sir, we're being hailed by the station. They're ready for docking." "Proceed, Captain." The human ship was small compared to the alien vessels already docked at the station. The Cathani ships were huge, dark things covered in spikes and weapon ports. They looked like they were built for war and nothing else. Next to them, the human vessel looked like a child's toy. Inside the station, aliens of many different species watched the humans dock. Most had never seen humans before. They whispered among themselves about how small and weak the humans looked. The Cathani representative smiled with sharp teeth, already tasting victory. Counselor Vexithara was the leader of the Cathani delegation. She was tall, with gray skin and forearms. Her species had conquered 17 other races in the past century. She did not expect humans to be any different. "Look at their pathetic little ship," she said to her aide. "One vessel against our entire fleet. These mammals know when they are beaten." The neutral mediator was Admiral Korthek from the Quillan Confederacy. His people were known for being fair and honest. They had blue skin and large eyes that could see many different types of light. He watched the human ship dock with interest. "The humans requested this meeting," he told his staff. "They said they had important matters to discuss." "Yes," laughed a Cathani officer nearby. "They want to beg for mercy." When the airlocks opened, Ambassador Hyunwoo walked out first. He was followed by Dr. Haewon Choi, Lieutenant Commander Jin Ho Yoon, and Engineer Mi Young Song. They moved with calm confidence that surprised some of the watching aliens. The main meeting room was huge, with a round table in the center. Representatives from 12 different alien species sat around it. The humans were given 4 small chairs on one side. Across from them sat the Cathani delegation, taking up nearly half the table. "Welcome," said Admiral Korthek. "We are here to discuss the end of the conflict between the Terran Federation and the Cathani Empire." Counselor Vexithara leaned forward. "There is little to discuss. The humans have lost. We are here to accept their surrender." Hyunwoo sat quietly, his hands folded on the table. "We appreciate the opportunity to talk." "Talk?" Vexithara's forearms gestured wildly. "Your species has been at war with us for 3 years. We have destroyed your colonies, scattered your fleets, and driven you back to your home system. What is there to talk about except the terms of your defeat?" Other alien representatives nodded. The war had been big news across the galaxy. Everyone knew the humans were losing badly. Their technology seemed primitive compared to the Cathani war machines. Their tactics were simple and their weapons were weak. Dr. Haewon spoke softly. "We have come to discuss the future relationship between our peoples." The room erupted in alien laughter. Several species made sounds that served as laughter for them. Clicking, buzzing, and hissing filled the air. "Relationship?" said a representative from the Zolani Republic. "You will be our servants if you are lucky. If you are not lucky, you will be extinct." Lieutenant Commander Jin Ho Yoon watched the aliens carefully. His job was intelligence, and he noticed things others missed. The Cathani seemed very confident, but their body language showed they were also impatient. They wanted this meeting to be over quickly. Engineer Mi Young Song sat quietly, occasionally checking a small device in her palm. To the aliens, it looked like she was nervous. They did not know she was monitoring signals from orbit. Admiral Korthek tried to maintain order. "Let us proceed formally. Counselor Vexithara, please present your terms." The Cathani leader stood up, towering over everyone at the table. "The terms are simple. Total surrender. All human military assets will be destroyed. Your remaining population will be relocated to a single world under our protection. You will provide labor for our expansion into the Outer Rim territories." She placed a datapad on the table. "These are the details. Sign them, and your species will survive. Refuse, and we will finish what we started. The aliens around the table nodded approvingly. This was how things usually went. The strong took what they wanted from the weak. It was the natural order of the galaxy. Hyun-woo picked up the datapad and read it slowly. His expression never changed. After several minutes, he set it down. These terms are interesting, he said. We would like time to review them with our government. Time? Vexithara slammed one of her fists on the table. What time? Your fleet is destroyed. Your colonies are burning. You have nothing left to bargain with. Nevertheless, Hyun-woo said calmly, we would like to consult with Earth before making any decisions. The Cathani delegation looked confused. They had expected immediate surrender. Other alien representatives whispered among themselves. What could the humans possibly be thinking? Admiral Korthek nodded. A reasonable request. We will recess for 4 hours. As the aliens filed out of the meeting room, many shook their heads in amazement. The humans were either very brave or very stupid. Most thought they were stupid. Vexthera approached Hyun-woo before leaving. You are making a mistake, human. We offered you survival. Continue this foolishness and we will offer you nothing. Hyun-woo stood and bowed slightly. Thank you for your concern, counselor. We will give your offer the consideration it deserves. After the aliens left, the 4 humans sat alone in the huge room. Dr. Haiwan looked worried. They really think we're beaten. Let them think what they want, said Jinho quietly. It makes things easier. Mi-young checked her device again. All signals are green. Everything is in position, Hyun-woo nodded. Then we wait. Let them enjoy their confidence while they can. Outside the station, space looked empty except for the docked ships. The Cathani vessels stood dark and threatening. The single human ship looked small and helpless beside them. But space is vast, and not everything that floats in it can be easily seen. The human delegation gathered in their assigned quarters on Harmony's Rest. The rooms were small but clean, designed to accommodate many different alien body types. Hyun-woo sat at a simple desk while his team worked around him. Dra Commander Jin Ho-yoon hunched over his equipment, listening to intercepted alien communications through earphones. His face grew darker with each message he decoded. Ambassador, he said, pulling off the earphones. You need to hear this. Dr. Haewon and Engineer Mi-young stopped their work to listen. Jinho activated a small speaker, and alien voices filled the room. The translation software turned their words into clear human speech. Phase 2 begins once the humans sign, said a Cathani voice. Move the slave collection ships to their remaining colonies. Start with the children. They adapt better to conditioning, another voice responded. What about the ones who resist? Standard procedure. Elimination squads will handle them. We need workers, not fighters. The recorded conversation continued for several more minutes. The humans listened in silence as the Cathani described their plans in detail. The protection they offered was slavery. The single world they promised would be a prison planet. Jin-ho turned off the recording. There are 12 more hours of this, sir. They've been planning this for months. Dr. Haewon looked sick. They never intended to honor any peace agreement. Of course not, said Hyun-woo quietly. This entire meeting is just for show. They want the galaxy to see us surrender willingly. Mi-young checked her monitoring device again. Sir, I'm receiving a priority message from Captain Park. She activated her communication unit. Captain So-jin Park's voice came through clearly. Ambassador Admiral Lee sends his compliments. The fleet reports all systems ready. We're waiting for your signal. Understood, Captain. Continue monitoring. No action until I give the word. Mi-young closed the communication channel. The room fell silent as the weight of their situation settled on everyone. Dr. Haewon spoke first. The other species at the table. Do they know what the Cathani really plan? Jinho shook his head. Some suspect, but they don't care. They'll get trading rights and territorial concessions for staying neutral. Everyone wins except us. And except the 17 other species the Cathani have already enslaved, added Hyun-woo. Mi-young brought up a holographic display showing the local star systems. Red markers indicated Cathani fleet positions. There were a lot of them. They have battle groups moving toward our colonies right now, she said. The moment these talks end, they attack. Whether we sign or not, they're planning to invade. Hyun-woo studied the display. Show me their fleet positions around Earth. The hologram shifted to show the Sol system. 3 large Cathani fleets waited just outside sensor range of the human homeworld. Each fleet had enough firepower to destroy a planet. They're not taking any chances, observed Dr. Heywan. No, agreed Hyun-woo, but neither are we. He activated his personal communicator. Captain Park, please patch me through to Admiral Lee. After a moment, a new voice joined the conversation. Admiral Taemin Lee commanded the Terran Federation's military forces. His voice was calm and professional. Ambassador, I trust the negotiations are proceeding as expected? Exactly as expected, Admiral. The Cathani have revealed their true intentions. They plan to enslave our entire species. I see. And the other alien delegations? They're either complicit or indifferent. We're on our own. There was a pause before Admiral Lee responded. Then it's time they learned what on our own really means. Are you ready to proceed? Hyun-woo looked at his team. Jin-ho nodded grimly. Dr. Heywan took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. Mi-young's fingers danced over her equipment, checking final preparations. We're ready, Admiral. Excellent. Remember, Ambassador, they think we're weak because we tried diplomacy first. They don't understand that strength doesn't always need to be displayed. I understand, sir. Good luck. Lee out. The communication ended. Hyun-woo stood and straightened his tie. It's time to return to the meeting. As they walked through the station's corridors, they passed groups of alien delegates. Most looked smug and satisfied. The Cathani representatives were laughing among themselves, already celebrating their victory. One young Quillen officer approached Dr. Heywan. Excuse me, he said politely. I wanted to say that some of us admire your species' courage. Even facing certain defeat, you maintain your dignity. Thank you, Dr. Heywan replied. But the day isn't over yet. The Quillen looked confused but nodded respectfully before walking away. When they reached the main meeting room, all the alien delegations were already seated. Counselor Vexthara looked impatient. Her forearms drummed against the table in a steady rhythm. Finally, she said as the humans took their seats, have you contacted your government? We have, said Hyun-woo, and? Earth has reviewed your generous offer. Vexthara leaned forward eagerly. Yes? Hyun-woo placed the datapad containing the surrender terms back on the table. We respectfully decline. The room erupted in shocked alien voices. Several delegates stood up in surprise. Vexthara's gray face turned darker with anger. Decline, she shrieked. You have no choice. Your fleet is destroyed. Your colonies are defenseless. Our position remains unchanged, said Hyun-woo calmly. We cannot accept terms that would enslave our people. Admiral Korthek tried to restore order. Perhaps we can modify the terms. No. Vexthara slammed all 4 fists on the table. No modifications. They accept our terms or face complete annihilation. She turned to face Hyun-woo directly. You have 1 hour to reconsider. 1 hour to save your pathetic species from extinction. After that, my fleets will finish what we started. The Cathani delegation stood as one and marched out of the room. Several other alien representatives followed them, shaking their heads at human stupidity. Admiral Korthek remained seated, looking troubled. Ambassador Kim, I must ask, are you certain about this decision? The Cathani Empire is not known for empty threats. We are certain, Admiral. But your fleet, your defenses, Dr. Heywan spoke quietly. Admiral Korthek, may I ask you something? Of course. In all your years of mediating conflicts, have you ever seen a species come to peace talks with only one ship? Korthek's large eyes blinked slowly. No. Usually both sides bring fleets to show their strength. Then perhaps, said Jin-ho, you should ask yourself why we came alone. The Quillen admiral stared at them for a long moment. Then he reached for his sensor controls, station security, perform a full-spectrum scan of the surrounding area. Maximum range, sir, came the confused reply. We've already scanned. There's nothing out there except the docked vessels. Scan again. Use deep space sensors and passive detection arrays. Mi-young checked her device again. A small light blinked from red to green. She nodded to Hyun-woo. Admiral Korthek, said Hyun-woo, you might find the next scan more interesting. Outside the station, space shimmered. What had looked like empty darkness began to change. Slowly, like ghosts becoming solid, shapes started to appear on every sensor screen in the station. The 1-hour deadline was about to become very interesting indeed. The sensor operator's voice cracked with shock. Admiral Korthek, you need to see this. Every screen in the meeting room lit up with sensor data. What had been empty space moments before now showed dozens of contacts, then hundreds. The numbers kept climbing as more and more vessels appeared on the displays. Admiral Korthek stared at the readings in disbelief. How is this possible? Our sensors are the most advanced in the galaxy. Your sensors are excellent, said Engineer Mi-young calmly. They just weren't looking for things that didn't want to be found. The remaining alien delegates in the room pressed forward to see the displays. Their various sounds of surprise, clicks, whistles, and gasps, filled the air. Dr. Haywan stood and walked to the main display. Admiral, you asked why we came with only one ship. The answer is simple. We didn't. On the screen, the tactical display showed the true situation around Harmony's Rest. The human fleet was enormous. Massive battleships hung in space like sleeping giants. Smaller vessels moved between them in perfect formation. Support ships and carriers held position at the fleet's edges. Impossible, whispered a delegate from the Zolani Republic. We detected nothing. Lieutenant Commander Jinho smiled for the first time since arriving at the station. Human stealth technology has improved recently. Admiral Korthek was checking and rechecking his instruments. The energy signatures. These aren't fake readings. These ships are really there. They've been there since before the talks began, said Hyunwoo. We wanted to ensure these negotiations proceeded without outside interference. On the screens, the identification tags were becoming clear. Each human vessel displayed its name and classification. Battleship Incheon's Fury, Carrier Busan's Hope, Destroyers Daegu's Vengeance and Gwangju's Shield. Dozens of frigates with names like Seoul's Promise and Ulsan's Wrath. The door to the meeting room burst open. Counselor Vexathara stormed in with her entire delegation behind her. Their gray faces were darker than usual, and all four of her arms shook with rage. Treachery, she screamed. This is a violation of neutral space. You brought a fleet to peace talks. We brought our fleet to ensure peace talks, corrected Hyunwoo. There's a difference. Our scanners show over 200 vessels. Another Kathani officer pointed at the displays. You lied about coming alone. Dr. Haywan tilted her head. We never said we came alone. You assumed we did because you only saw one ship. The truth of their situation was sinking in for the aliens. The Kathani had expected to negotiate with a defeated enemy. Instead, they faced a fleet that outnumbered their forces 3-1. Admiral Korthek's communication officer called out urgently. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human flagship. Put it through, ordered Korthek. The main screen shifted to show a new face. Admiral Taemin Lee appeared in his command uniform. Behind him, the bridge of the Incheon's Fury bustled with activity. This is Admiral Lee of the Terran Federation Fleet. His voice carried clearly through the room. I apologize for the dramatic revelation, but we wanted to ensure all parties understood the true situation before negotiations concluded. Vexathara pushed forward. This is an act of war. You've violated neutral space with an invasion fleet. Admiral Lee's expression remained calm. Counselor, I suggest you check the relevant treaties. Escort vessels are permitted for diplomatic missions. We're simply escorting our ambassador. 200 ships is not an escort. The size of our escort reflects the importance we place on these talks. Lee replied smoothly. Captain Sojin Park's voice came through the communication system from the Seoul's Pride. Admiral Lee, all fleet elements report ready status. Stealth systems are standing by for reactivation if needed. The threat was subtle but clear. The human fleet could disappear again at any moment, making them nearly impossible to track or target. Engineer Mi-young activated her equipment again. New displays showed the complete tactical situation. The human fleet hadn't just been hiding. They had been positioning themselves strategically around the entire area. You see, she explained to the stunned aliens, while you were moving your forces into attack positions around our colonies, we were moving ours into defensive positions around this station. Jinho added, we've been tracking your fleet movements for weeks. Every ship, every route, every communication. The Kathani delegation looked at each other with growing alarm. Their secret battle plans were apparently not very secret. Dr. Haywan brought up another display showing Kathani fleet positions. We know about the forces you positioned near Earth. We know about your slave collection ships. We know about your plans for our colonies. We also know, said Hyunwoo quietly, that you never intended to honor any agreement you made here today. Vexathara's 4 arms gestured wildly. You cannot prove that. Jinho activated his recording equipment. The alien voices they had intercepted earlier filled the room, translated into galactic standard language. The Cathani delegates listened to their own words describing their plans for human enslavement. When the recording ended, the room was silent except for the quiet hum of the station's life support systems. Admiral Korthek spoke first. "Counselor Vexithara, is this recording accurate?" The Cathani leader's mouth opened and closed several times before she found her voice. Those were contingency plans, private military discussions, private discussions about enslaving children and eliminating resistors. Dr. Haywan's voice was ice cold. The other alien delegates began backing away from the Cathani. Even those who had been neutral were shocked by what they had heard. Admiral Lee's voice came through the speakers again. "Counselor Vexthera, you offered us a choice earlier. Accept slavery or face extinction. Now I offer you a choice." The main screen showed the tactical display again. The human fleet had moved into combat formation while remaining hidden. They could strike before the Cathani ships could even raise their shields. Withdraw your forces from human space immediately, or discover what human extinction looks like from the receiving end. Vexithera's gray skin had turned almost white. "You're bluffing. You humans are weak. You tried diplomacy first because you're afraid to fight." Hyunwoo stood slowly. When he spoke, his voice carried an edge that hadn't been there before. "Counselor, you made a critical error in your analysis of our species. You assumed that because we preferred peace, we were incapable of war. You thought that because we tried diplomacy first, we had no other options." He walked to the main display and touched a control. The screen now showed the full strength of the human fleet in perfect detail. "We didn't come here weak and desperate. We came here strong and prepared. We didn't bring one ship because we had no choice. We brought 200 ships because we had every choice." Captain Park's voice crackled through the speakers. "Admiral Lee, Cathani vessels are powering weapons and raising shields." Lee's response was immediate. "All ships, battle stations, weapons free on my command." The status lights on every human vessel changed from green to red. What had been a peaceful fleet formation instantly became a weapon pointed at the Cathani ships. "Counselor," said Admiral Lee, "you have 30 seconds to order your ships to stand down. After that, we'll consider their actions hostile and respond accordingly." Vexithera looked around the room desperately. The other alien delegates had moved as far away from her as possible. Admiral Korthek was studying his instruments with professional detachment. 20 seconds, announced Captain Park. The Cathani counselor's 4 hands shook as she reached for her communicator. "All Cathani vessels, stand down. Lower shields and power down weapons." Vexithera's voice cracked as she shouted into her communicator. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Every alien present watched the tactical displays as the Cathani ships slowly complied with their leader's orders. Red warning lights changed to yellow, then green as weapons powered down. 10 seconds remaining. Captain Park announced calmly. "They're complying," reported Admiral Lee. "All Cathani vessels show weapons, offline and shields lowered." Admiral Korthek let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Crisis averted. But Hyunwoo wasn't finished. "Now that we have everyone's attention, perhaps we can discuss the real situation." He activated his wrist communicator. "Admiral Lee, please join us in the meeting room. I think it's time for a proper introduction." "On my way, Ambassador." While they waited, Engineer Myung brought up new displays showing the complete scope of human military capability. What they saw made the alien delegates gasp in amazement. "This can't be accurate," whispered a representative from the hegemony of worlds. "These production numbers, you'd need hundreds of shipyards." "We do have hundreds of shipyards," Myung replied simply. "Automated ones. They've been working continuously for the past 2 years." Dr. Haywan added more data to the display. "While the Cathani were fighting what they thought was a desperate human resistance, we were actually conducting field tests of our new technology." "Field tests?" Admiral Korthek looked confused. Lieutenant Commander Jinho nodded. "Every battle, every skirmish, every engagement was carefully monitored. We learned how alien technology worked, tested our own systems, and improved our designs." "You used the war as a training exercise?" Vexthara's voice was barely a whisper. "We used the war as an education," corrected Hyunwoo. "We learned that the galaxy is a dangerous place. We learned that other species would try to conquer us. So we prepared accordingly." The door opened and Admiral Tae-min Lee entered with a small escort. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes that seemed to see everything. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone used to being obeyed. Good afternoon, everyone. I apologize for the dramatic entrance, but some situations require clear communication. He walked to the main display and added his command codes. The screen now showed a three-dimensional map of the entire region of space around Harmony's Rest. What you see here is the current military situation. Cathani forces are marked in red. Human forces are marked in blue. Neutral vessels are green. The map was stunning. Human ships were everywhere, not just around the station, but throughout the local star systems. They had been positioned to cut off every possible escape route for the Cathani fleet. Impossible, breathed a Zolani delegate. We would have detected fleet movements of this size. You detected what we wanted you to detect, said Admiral Lee. Our stealth technology is more advanced than you realized. Captain Ryu Jinbaek's voice came through the communication system. Admiral, this is Carrier Basan's Hope. All fighter squadrons report ready for launch. Bomber wings are standing by. Admiral Lee nodded. Thank you, Captain. Maintain readiness status. He turned to address the alien delegates directly. For 3 years, you watched what you thought was a war between the Cathani Empire and a primitive human civilization. What you actually watched was humanity's introduction to galactic politics. More data appeared on the displays. Production schedules, technology development timelines, strategic planning documents, all showing that humanity had been preparing for this moment. Since the first alien contact, we knew that peaceful contact was unlikely, continued Admiral Lee. Too many species in this galaxy seem to believe that might makes right, so we prepared for the alternatives. Engineer Mi Young highlighted specific technical achievements. Fusion drives that outperform anything in the galactic database. Weapons systems based on principles most species haven't discovered yet. Shield technology that can withstand directed energy weapons and kinetic bombardment. But most importantly, added Dr. Haywan, we developed manufacturing capability. While other species build ships one at a time, we build them by the dozen. General Kyung-Soo Lim's voice joined the conversation from somewhere in the human fleet. Admiral Lee, all Marine divisions report ready for deployment. Ground assault forces are standing by. The implications hit the alien delegates like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just brought ships, they had brought invasion forces. Vexithara found her voice again. You're threatening us. This is exactly the kind of aggressive behavior that started this war. Yunwoo turned to face her directly. Counselor, let me be very clear. We didn't start this war. Your empire attacked our colonies without warning or provocation. We defended ourselves. But now, added Admiral Lee, we're in a position to do more than just defend. A new voice joined the conversation. President Dae-Hyun Park appeared on the main screen via holographic projection from Earth. Citizens of the galaxy, he began. I am President Park of the Terran Federation. I'm speaking to you from humanity's homeworld to clarify our position. The appearance of the human head of state shocked the aliens even more. This wasn't just a military operation. It was a coordinated diplomatic and military action at the highest levels. For months, we have watched the Cathani Empire prepare for what they call the final solution to the human problem. We have intercepted their communications about slave labor camps and elimination squads. We have seen their plans to use our children as workers and our adults as test subjects. President Park's voice grew harder. We came to these peace talks hoping for a reasonable solution. Instead, we found an empire that views peace negotiations as surrender ceremonies. Admiral Korthek stepped forward. President Park, the Quillan Confederacy has always maintained neutrality in galactic conflicts. We had no knowledge of Cathani plans for post-war treatment of human populations. We know, Admiral, your people have always been fair and honest. That's why we chose your station for these talks. The President continued his address. But now the situation has changed. The Cathani Empire and its allies have seen humanity's true capability. They understand that we are not a weak species waiting to be conquered. Captain Sojin Park's voice came through the speakers. Mr. President, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 Cathani vessels. They're asking for safe passage out of the system. Granted, replied Admiral Lee. Any Cathani ship that withdraws immediately will not be pursued. On the tactical display, red dots began moving away from the station. Nearly half the Cathani fleet was choosing to retreat rather than face the human forces. Vexthera watched her ships fleeing, and her gray face grew darker. Cowards. We still outnumber them. Actually, said Engineer Mi Young, checking her displays, you don't. Our full fleet includes 347 combat vessels plus support ships. Your remaining force is number 138 vessels, and that's just the ships you can see, added Jin Ho with a slight smile. President. Park's hologram addressed the remaining alien delegates. The Terran Federation seeks peaceful coexistence with all species. We have no desire for conquest or expansion beyond our current territory, but we will not tolerate threats to our people or our freedom. Admiral Lee activated new displays showing human defensive positions throughout their space. We are prepared to defend our territory against any aggression. We are also prepared to assist other species who face similar threats to their independence. The meaning was clear. Humanity was offering protection to smaller species who might become Cathani targets. This is intolerable. Vexthara slammed her fists on the table again. You cannot dictate terms to the galaxy. We're not dictating anything, said Hyunwoo calmly. We're simply making our position clear. Humanity will not be enslaved, conquered, or eliminated. Anyone who attempts to do so will face the consequences. Admiral Lee looked directly at the Cathani counselor. The question now, Counselor Vexthara, is whether your empire wants to test that statement. The silence in the meeting room stretched for long moments. Counselor Vexthara stared at the tactical displays showing the overwhelming human fleet surrounding her remaining ships. Her forearms trembled with rage and fear. You have won this day, she said finally, her voice filled with bitter hatred. But this is not over. The Cathani Empire has existed for 1,000 years. We will not be defeated by one battle. Admiral Lee nodded respectfully. Counselor, you're absolutely right. This isn't over, it's just beginning. But perhaps it can begin differently than you planned. President Park's hologram stepped forward. The Terran Federation is prepared to offer a new kind of relationship with the Cathani Empire. One based on mutual respect rather than conquest. Respect? Vexthara laughed bitterly. You hold a fleet over our heads and speak of respect? We speak of strength, corrected Hyunwoo. True strength that doesn't need to be used if it's properly understood. Dr. Haewon activated new displays showing detailed intelligence reports. We know about every Cathani colony, every military installation, every trade route. We know about your slave camps on 17 different worlds. The displays showed locations, population numbers, and detailed tactical assessments. The scope of human intelligence gathering was staggering. We also know, added Lieutenant Commander Jin Ho, about the resistance movements on those worlds. The ones your empire thinks it has crushed. Captain Ryujin Beck's voice crackled through the speakers. Admiral Lee, we're receiving communications from resistance groups on 7 Cathani-occupied worlds. They're requesting immediate assistance. Admiral Lee looked thoughtful. Captain, transmit their request to Fleet Intelligence. We'll evaluate what support we can provide. The implications struck the alien delegates like lightning. Humanity wasn't just capable of defending itself. It was prepared to liberate other species from Cathani rule. Vexthara's gray skin turned almost white. You wouldn't dare interfere with internal Cathani affairs. Slavery isn't an internal affair, said President Park firmly. It's a crime against sentient life, and we won't tolerate it anywhere in our region of space. Admiral Korthek stepped forward. President Park, the Quillan Confederacy has always maintained strict neutrality. But the evidence presented here today changes our perspective significantly. He activated his own communicator. Quillan Command, this is Admiral Korthek. Prepare a full report on Cathani activities in our border regions. Include all evidence of slave labor and forced relocations. Other alien delegates began checking their own intelligence reports. What they found clearly disturbed them. The hegemony of worlds has suspected Cathani activities on our borders, said one delegate. But we lacked proof. The proof is now available, said Engineer Mi Young. We're prepared to share our intelligence with any species committed to ending slavery and forced labor. General Kyung-Soo Lim's voice joined the conversation. Admiral Lee, all Liberation fleets report ready for deployment. We can begin operations within 6 hours. The casual mention of Liberation fleets sent another shock through the room. The humans had planned for offensive operations against slave worlds. Captain Sojin Park provided an update from the Soul's Pride. Sir, we're detecting massive communications traffic from Cathani space. Their high command is requesting status reports from all regional governors. They're trying to figure out how much we really know, observed Jin Ho with Satisfaction, Admiral Lee addressed Vexithera directly. Counselor, your empire faces a choice. You can continue your current policies and find yourself at war with a coalition of free species. Or you can change direction and become part of a new galactic order based on cooperation instead of conquest. What exactly are you proposing? Asked a delegate from the Meridian Alliance. President Park's hologram gestured to new displays showing proposed territorial agreements. The Terran Federation proposes a mutual defense pact among all free species. Any attack on one member would be considered an attack on all. Furthermore, added Admiral Lee, we propose immediate sanctions against any species that practices slavery or forced labor. No trade, no diplomatic relations, no support of any kind. Dr. Haywan brought up economic projections. The Cathani Empire depends heavily on trade with neutral species. A complete economic embargo would cripple their expansion plans. The alien delegates looked at each other with growing interest. A coalition backed by human military power could protect them from Cathani aggression while maintaining their independence. Vexithara realized her position was becoming impossible. You're trying to isolate us from the entire galaxy. We're trying to give the galaxy a choice, corrected Hyunwoo. Join a community of free species or face that community as an enemy. Admiral Korthek spoke for the Quillan Confederacy. The Confederacy is prepared to consider membership in such an alliance. One by one, other delegates voiced their support. The Meridian Alliance, the Hegemony of Worlds, the Stellar Republic, all expressed interest in joining a mutual defense pact. Captain Park provided another update. Admiral Lee, we're detecting Cathani fleet movements throughout their space. They appear to be withdrawing from forward positions. Confirming that, added Captain Beck. Long range, sensors show Cathani forces pulling back from 3-star systems. The retreat was beginning before any shots had been fired. The mere demonstration of human capability was enough to force a strategic withdrawal. Engineer Mi Young highlighted communication intercepts. Cathani High Command is ordering all slave labor operations to cease temporarily. They're worried about liberation raids. As well they should be, said General Lim grimly. President Park addressed the room one final time. The offer stands, Counselor Vexithera. The Cathani Empire can choose to reform and join the galactic community. Or it can choose isolation and conflict. Vexithara looked around the room at the other delegates, all of whom were now aligned against her empire. The tactical displays showed human fleets in position to strike at Cathani territory from multiple directions. The intelligence reports revealed that humanity knew everything about Cathani operations. I will convey your terms to the Imperial Council, she said. Finally, take all the time you need, said Admiral Lee. Our fleets will maintain their current positions while you deliberate. The threat was polite but unmistakable. Human forces would remain in place, ready to act the moment the Cathani made an aggressive move. As the meeting broke up, Admiral Korthek approached Hyunwoo privately. Ambassador, may I ask how long you've been planning this? Since first contact with alien civilization, Hyunwoo replied honestly. We hoped for peaceful coexistence, but we prepared for the alternatives. And if the Cathani had agreed to reasonable terms, then you never would have seen our fleet. We came here hoping for peace, prepared for war, and ready for whatever choice they made. Dr. Haywan joined the conversation. Admiral, we'd like to invite the Quillan Confederacy to send observers to our shipyards. Transparency builds trust. Korthek nodded appreciatively. We would be honored. As the alien delegates filed out to contact their governments, the human team remained behind. Through the windows, they could see the vast human fleet maintaining its protective formation around the station. Captain Park's voice came through the speakers one last time. Ambassador, Admiral Lee requests permission to begin withdrawing non-essential vessels. We've made our point. Granted, Captain. But maintain full readiness status. Understood, sir. Engineer Mi Young checked her displays. The galactic news networks are already broadcasting the story. Hidden human fleet revealed at peace talks. Cathani Empire forced to retreat. New galactic alliance proposed. Military's Commander Jin Ho smiled. I don't think anyone will underestimate humanity again. Good, said Hyunwoo quietly. That was the point. Admiral Lee appeared on the main screen one final time. Ambassador, the fleet stands ready for whatever comes next. But I think we've successfully introduced humanity to galactic politics. Indeed we have, Admiral. Indeed we have. Outside the station, the human fleet began a slow, orderly withdrawal, but everyone understood that they could return at a moment's notice. The galaxy had learned a new lesson about the species from Earth. They were not conquerors, but they would not be conquered. The age of Cathani expansion was over. The age of the Galactic Free Species Alliance had begun, and it had all started with a simple peace talk where humanity brought warships.